Cole, what's the conference feel around Texas A&M and LSU now that they're the final playing date of the regular season each year?
I think it is more wishful thinking that it will be a great rivalry than the majority of the people of the footprint believe it is right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it has a very high ceiling as far as what kind of rivalry it can turn into. You have to think that you're comparing it to games that have been played for 100 consecutive years.
Yeah, that's a problem.
It's just not going to have the same kind of luster and the same kind of history and the same kind of memories that a lot of these other rivalries in this league have. But I think it's one that was so natural that needed to happen and it needed to be placed where it is as well. And I'm excited about it, and I think it has a chance to be a more competitive game than some people believe. But I don't think A&M can win the game.
Before we get to tomorrow, give me a reaction to last night. Mississippi State gets out of there 21-20. The penalty at the end of the game on Elijah Moore pushes back the PAT, which Ole Miss misses.
PAT.
Yes, sorry. 21-20 final last night as Coach Moorhead and the Bulldogs become bowl eligible.
Just one of the dumber moves in the history of college football.
Real though.
That's being kind.
Like, for real, it's crazy.
I just don't know how. If you're up 30 and you do it, I guess I'll kind of get it, but I don't know where your head is right there, other than you had that in your mind on Sunday that if I score, I'm doing this.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing I can think of. That when you turn the page, and maybe since they were off last week, maybe 2 Sundays ago, so for 13 days, you've just been sitting there thinking, when I score, I'm going fire hydrant. I'm lifting the leg, and I'll show them. And that's the only thing I can imagine, because you have to situationally know that there's no part of that that's a decent idea. None. And it was, somebody asked Gus Malzahn in his press conference this week about the football gods. And he said, I believe in God, but I don't believe in football gods.
Wow.
Well, if there are football gods, that was them showing themselves and making their presence known right there to say, you're going to do that in this game right there. How about this? Kicks going wide right.
Yeah.
Good luck.
It was instant karma.
Absolutely. Just it was a heck of. The thing is, it's a great game.
It was.
And you got so many massive plays early. I don't know how many interceptions Matt Luke was going to let Matt Corral throw in the last 2 possessions of that game. So I feel like he threw 7 and got away with 6 of them. But I really that whole thing was crazy. I have to know. I want to know. I'm disappointed that we didn't get definitive information on John Rhys Plumlee's status, because I need to know if he was injured at the end of that game.
Yeah.
Because there's no reason that he's not in. I'm sorry. I know Matt Corral hit a couple big throws, but goodness, he almost handed that game back to Mississippi State 5 times. So I got to know what the status of John Rhys Plumlee was at the end of that game.
Yeah, I didn't quite get that either, man. And as Jordy pointed out to me this morning, Cole, let's not forget Elijah Moore. Maybe his head wasn't all the way there last night, because he also did call a fair catch after he caught the punt at one point in the game.
Rough night for him,
which is another thing that I have never seen before.
Rough night for Elijah.
It just wasn't computing, man. All right, Cole, let's get to the big news of the day. I was texting with you about it earlier this week because you mentioned Bama Magic last week and how I'll watch out for it 2 weeks ago. And sure enough, Oregon goes and loses. A little bit of sign of that Bama Magic, but you know what can shut it down this weekend? Your Auburn Tigers. Cole, how you feeling about the Iron Bowl and and Jordan Hare?
Well, I like the fact that it's going to be a home game. I like the fact that you got a couple of leaders, a couple seniors that have played a ton of football in an Auburn uniform that have a chance to go out with a big win at home. I think there are some really interesting matchups in this game. Obviously, Alabama's much different with Mac Jones than Tua, and for some reason, Alabama fans think you're immediately disrespecting Mac Jones by saying that. It's no disrespect. It's just he ain't the same. And it's not just getting the ball out quickly. It's not just the ridiculous accuracy that Tua had that's going to be very different. I think some people don't understand that, and LSU fans have a taste of this right now, the difference between a receiver running a slant and the ball hitting him on the front number, on that shoulder,
That's a
or
great
right
point.
in front of his face mask,
Yeah.
as opposed to
Reaching
on that
back.
hip or on that back shoulder. That's the difference between 60 yards, literally. And Tua gave those receivers that opportunity consistently. I don't think Mac Jones can do that, and he doesn't get the ball out as quickly. And the biggest difference that I've noticed, other than those obvious ones that we discussed with Mac Jones and Tua, is Mac Jones needs to be set up comfortably to make big throws. And I went back and watched some of the Tennessee game. I watched the Arkansas game. I watched him against Western Carolina. He does not have that Trevor Lawrence, that Tua, that Joe Burrow ability to just quickly get to the next read and let it go, and it's going to be there. He has to be comfortably set up to make a throw. And asking a quarterback with limited experience to do that or be that against this defensive line, that's a scary situation to be in. Auburn's going to have to tackle well because there's going to be a lot of quick stuff. They're going to try to get the ball in the hands of these playmaker receivers, and they have the ability to go the distance. And Auburn's given up some big plays, did it late against LSU, late against Florida, did it early against Georgia. So they're going to have to get those receivers on the ground. But I do think that's an intriguing matchup, along with, and I think this might be the biggest of all of them, the health of the Alabama defensive line. If Raekwon Davis and Christian Barmore and DJ Dale are not very close to 100% in playing the majority of the snaps, that Alabama D-line is very different when the next wave is in. Very different. And Auburn hasn't had a ton of success running between the tackles this year. But if that next wave has to go for the majority of the snaps, I think they might be able to get something going between the tackles. And you guys know that opens up pace and tempo. That opens up play action. That opens up some of the perimeter runs. That opens up quarterback runs. So I think if Auburn finds a way to get something going between the tackles because the Alabama D-line, the middle of it, is not 100%, that could be a huge advantage and something that maybe decides the game.
Cole, so a little bit of a hypothetical here. Let's say that Auburn wins. What do you think that would say about the playoff committee's evaluation, like their eye test, right? Because this is a team they give benefit of the doubt the entire year. Like, is there a disconnect if Alabama goes and loses this game?
No. They have the ultimate get-out-of-jail-free card, and that is that Tua does not play. I mean, think about it. That's just, and this is the reason that I've tried to tell people that we've seen this go the other way all the time, where people say, "Oh, well, we're not going to hold that against them because that player was not available," or "We don't look as poorly or negatively on that loss because that player wasn't available." That's fine. That's okay. But on the flip side of that, you have to say that's a different team because they don't have that player anymore. Yeah. They are. He was the key cognizant of how they were able to generate what made the eye test so attractive. He was the eye test. He was the beauty queen of that football team if you're talking about the eye test, okay? Right. I mean, the receivers were the talent show. And, I mean, Tua was the bikini competition. I mean, the running backs are the Q&A. So, I mean, Tua was what people put the television on to see. So I think it's fair to say, well, we don't judge you the same way anymore because the guy that made you so attractive is not on your football team anymore. I don't know how anybody can say, oh, no, Alabama's still – they're the same team. I look at them the same way. The defense isn't dominant. The run game hasn't been consistently dominant. The offensive line's been very good, but it took a while for that to get going. And Najee Harris has only been really good the last couple of weeks. So how can you say – and they got guys beat up all over the place, not just Tua. So I don't know how anyone can judge them as the same or even a very similar team without the guy that made everything go. It's hilarious to hear how great he was, how next level he was, how nobody else compared to him, how Joe Burrow couldn't have improved that much. He still wasn't close to Tua. I know Trevor Lawrence beat him, but he still wasn't Tua. But now that Tua's out, oh, man, those receivers, the offensive line, Najee Harris. It's like, no, man, it doesn't work that way.
Move the goalpost. Look, man, I love a good analogy. And comparing Alabama's team to a beauty pageant is up there among the best. Thank you for that, Cole. That was excellent.
Cole Cubelic of the SEC Network every Friday, brought to you by Edward Jones and Tex Morris over here in Baton Rouge. Auburn side, what's Bo Nix's day have to look like for them to win?
No turnovers, for sure. Keep in mind, Alabama plus 17 in the turnovers. They're only plus 7 against SEC competition this year, which plus 7 is still really good. And Auburn's not bad. They're plus 5, which is tied for second in the SEC. But Alabama has not turned the ball over more than one time, or they've only turned it over more than one time in one game, and they haven't turned it over more than twice the entire season. Again, going back to what we just discussed, a big part of that is the guy that was pulling the trigger before, and he's not going to be there. So I don't think Bo Nix can afford many turnovers because I don't even think Mac Jones is going to turn it over a bunch. And I think he needs to do some damage with his legs. I think he needs to be closing in on 100 yards rushing with his legs. I think he needs to force that defense to defend different parts of the field. And when he's got throws like he had late against Georgia, he's got to make them. He's going to have to make a couple big throws in this game, whether it's to get points late. He's going to have to make a few big throws, but the big portion of his game has to be something with his legs to force the defense to defend it, and I don't think he can afford more than one turnover.
You are now one of the faces and voices of the Southeastern Conference. Are your Twitter mentions the worst from the Alabama fan base because you're an Auburn grad?
As far as from all the fan bases?
Yeah.
Oh, that's rotational.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it rotates.
But it's still not the most vile from them because you went to Auburn?
Mostly. I mean, I get the most. I guess Alabama fans are the most untimely, as in It doesn't matter what I'm.
June.
We used to have when I did my old show in North Alabama, we had this hashtag that I came up with called Butt Bama. And essentially what that is I could sit there and I could say Joe Burrow's completed 79% of his passes against the blitz this year, and he's 10% percentage points higher than Colt McCoy was when he set the record. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire has 6 carries for 188 yards is the best per average, and then immediately, but Najee Harris did this against LSU, or but Tua did this 2 years ago.
But Bama.
But Joe Namath this and that. It's just like other people can be good too. Other players on other teams can have success. It's not always. But did you see this Bama guy? So it's I can't even have a conversation about other teams with but Bama finding their way into my mentions somehow, some way.
LSU fans are, they're gearing up for tomorrow night. It's supposed to rain, but they're going to pack the place because it'll be the final time they have a chance to watch Joe Burrow play in Tiger Stadium. Wrap up his 2 years for me from your standpoint.
I would have to say exceeded every single expectation humanly possible. A lot of fun to watch and just special. To have a guy come in and have first off, as good of a year as he did last year, which is still a little bit of an underrated season based on the offense they were running and what he was really given the opportunities to do, and then grasp this system the way that he has and completely excel in it, has handled himself exactly the way that you wanted to, has endeared himself to fans, and I think as of today, he's going to go down as the greatest quarterback in the history of LSU football.
Cole, just a little bit of a preview into the SEC Championship. We'll talk about a lot more at length next week, or just a couple thoughts on an early LSU-Georgia matchup.
I think the Georgia secondary against the LSU receivers is much more intriguing than a lot of people want to talk about right now. I think it's going to be much more difficult for Clyde Edwards-Helaire to get yards easy as he has the last few weeks. That front is really good. They set the edge really well. The DBs come up and tackle, and they play physical ball. I think this game will come down to most likely the LSU front seven. And if they can withstand what that offensive line has to offer and what DeAndre Swift has to offer, which is going to be defending the backside of the majority of runs because he hits more home runs, cutting runs back than any back I've seen in a long time. He's exceptional at it. But I think that's your matchup right there because I think LSU scores. But I do think that the Georgia defense is good enough to limit them to a certain extent. It's not just going to be a field day. It's not going to be an Arkansas-type performance. But I think if the LSU front seven can hold up and make life difficult on Jake Fromm and not allow DeAndre Swift to just impose his will and control how the tempo of that game goes, then LSU has a really good shot to win. But I actually right now expect a more competitive game. I think a lot of people think LSU walks in there and just runs Georgia by 35 points. I don't see that game going that way.
Wow.
Happy belated Thanksgiving to you and the crew, man.
Same to you guys. I've enjoyed being with you all year and look forward to catching up next